Hi there, and welcome back to your Spanish class. You know, in this course, we've talked about the differences between English and Spanish and similarities. Similarities include, well, just the expression of concepts that we all understand, and also similarities included something we call cognates, which are words that sound the same between Spanish and English. You can pretty much guess what the word is going to mean. Differences, however, have had to do with the splitting apart or the smashing together of meaning. When it comes to smashing together, we talked about prepositions, right? Like the preposition en, which means in, on, and at. Something that we have 3 different words for in English is just one word in Spanish. But then there are the kinds that are split apart, like ser, estar, and haber, which all mean to be, but in different contexts. This is just like that, saber and conocer. They are 2 ways to know. In English, we know somebody, we know how to do something, we know where our socks are, and we know the director of the school. But in Spanish, we have to divvy this up into 2 different verbs, saber and conocer. Saber is an irregular verb, so we're going to have to pay special attention, especially with the yo form, which is where irregularity usually lives. Conocer is not irregular, but it has a kind of cranky yo as well. So let's take a look at this important concept and see if we can learn it. Okay, so to start with, 2 ways to know. How do we divvy it up? Saber, which means to know, is about data and information. When we say saber plus an infinitive, we're saying to know how to. Let me give you an example. Yo sé dónde está la escuela. I know where the school is. That's information I possess. It's data. It's like your address. It's like your own name. It's like someone else's name. Yo sé su nombre. I know her name. Saber plus the infinitive. Yo sé hablar. I know how to talk. Yo sé escribir. I know how to write. Conocer, on the other hand, means to meet someone or to be acquainted with someone. In English, we say, I know her, by which we mean I'm acquainted with her. Think about that existentially for a moment. It's kind of interesting. In English, we say, I know her. Well, you don't know her really. You know about her. You know she exists, but she does have a lot of secrets. She has a personal life that you don't know about. So it's not saber, it's conocer, to meet or be acquainted with someone. When we meet someone, that verb becomes reflexive and we have to use the preposition a. So we say conocerse a alguien. That say that we see popping up now and again means, hey, I'm a reflexive verb. And we haven't really talked about reflexive verbs in this course, but suffice it to say that in Spanish, reflexivity has a very different role from the role it plays in English. So let's just say, for now, just accept conocerse. In the first person, when I say I meet someone, I say me. In the third person, I say sé. That's the reflexive pronoun. Me for yo and sé for usted, él, ella. Let me give you an example. I'll say, yo me conozco a Diana. I meet Diana. Me conozco a Diana. I meet Diana. See? I would never say saber with Diana. I would use conocer. So this is like ser and estar. It's a divvying up. It's a fission instead of a fusion. ¿Qué sabe usted? What do you know? ¿A quién conoce usted? Who do you know? If you can keep this in your mind, what do you know? Who do you know? ¿Qué sabe usted? ¿A quién conoce usted? What do you know? Who do you know? Now, you might be tempted to say, oh, I get it. When it has to do with people, it's conocer. Truth is, that's not the case. It really is saying that you're familiar with something. For instance, I could say, conozco París. Notice that that is not in there with Paris, which is a city and not a person. I say conozco París, which means I'm familiar with Paris, or conozco Manhattan. I am familiar with Manhattan. I can kind of get around there. But I say yo sé español. Yo sé el español. I know Spanish. It's data. It's in my head, like your flashcards. So our little lady up there is asking some questions of the poor tiny man who doesn't know anything. She says, ¿Sabe usted dónde está Julio? ¿Sabe usted dos más dos? ¿Sabe usted? And on and on and on. The little man says, no lo sé. No sé nada. I don't know anything. Perhaps good phrases to learn. ¿Conoce usted a María? She asks. Do you know Maria? ¿Conoce el barrio? Do you know the neighborhood? ¿Conoce el libro de Camus? Do you know that book of Camus? ¿Conoce? Do you know? Even the poor little man says, no conozco a nadie. No conozco muchas cosas. I don't know anybody, and I don't know much. So let's conjugate these verbs. High time, right? Notice that I've put yo in its irregularity in a little bit of pink to bring it out for you. Again, this kind of irregularity, there's no true pattern to it. That's why it's called irregular. But irregularity is just something you have to learn. And you get used to it because all these irregular verbs are verbs we use all the time in Spanish. So through mere repetition, you're going to learn it. Let's say them together without the subject pronouns. Repita, por favor. Sé. Sabes. Sabe. Sabemos. Saben. So notice that after first person, this is really regular. It's saber, it's an ER verb, and it just goes sabe, sabe, sabemos, saben. Good. Now let's take a look at conocer, conjugated. And here you see there's a little strangeness in yo, and I avoid calling it an irregularity because this is not an irregular verb. Remember in class I said irregular verbs are verbs that are strange in the present, in the past, and very often also in the future. Conocer is regular everywhere except in the present of yo. This is actually called an orthographic changing verb, which simply means that it has a little spelling irregularity. And let's see why. It's conocer, right? So I don't want to say conozco. Even though lots of kids, like I said in class, a little kid would say, yo conozco. No, we say yo conozco because we want that s sound, conocer, conozco. So we put in the zeta to make that C soft. Okay, let's conjugate the verb together again without the subject pronouns. Repita por favor. Conozco. Conoces. Conoce. Conocemos. Conocen. Great. Note, I gave you a little clue here that all verbs that end in CER and CIR have exactly this orthographic strangeness. They all go sco. And that really has to do with just how things are spelled in Spanish, not some sort of irregularity. All right, let's try some phrases with saber and conocer, phrases you might use at school. Repita por favor. No lo sé. No lo sé. Favor de conocerse a mi colega Nancy. Favor de conocerse a mi colega Nancy. ¿Sabe usted leer y escribir? ¿Sabe usted leer y escribir? ¿Conoce a la maestra de su hijo? ¿Conoce a la maestra de su hijo? ¿Sabe llegar a la escuela? ¿Sabe llegar a la escuela? Good. So notice in the last two phrases, I left out the usted. Remember at the beginning when we talked about question format, I said that usted, or rather the subject pronoun, is often thrown in after the verb to make a question sound more questiony. So if you wanted, you could also say, ¿Conoce usted a la maestra de su hijo? Or you could say, ¿Conoce a la maestra de su hijo usted? Which would make it sound even more questiony. But you don't have to use the subject pronoun ever. Okay. Well, what do you know? Which verb is best, saber or conocer? Take a look at these sentences, and if you want, pause the YouTube video right here and take a look and try to decide whether saber or conocer is what you're looking for. Don't try to translate them. Just look at the context and see, is this saber or conocer? Pause the video right now. Okay, so now you're back. Let's go over it. I know how to drive. What do you think? That's right, it's saber. Yo sé manejar. Why? Because knowing how to do things is saber. What about the next one? I know that the child is smart. Acquaintance or data? Sounds like data to me. Sé que el niño es inteligente. Yo sé que el niño es inteligente. I know the child is smart. He's just not doing his homework. Number 3, I don't know his mother. Is this acquaintance or is it data? That's right, it's acquaintance. It sounds like this. No conozco a su madre. No conozco a su madre. What about number 4? I would like to meet you. Now this doesn't even sound like no, it's meet. Is it acquaintance or is it data? That's right, it is acquaintance, so it's conocer. It sounds like this. Me gustaría conocerla. Me gustaría conocerla or lo. I would like to meet you. What about the second to last one? I know this city very well. I know this city. Is this acquaintance or data? It is acquaintance. You don't know it, you know about it. It sounds like this. Conozco esta ciudad muy bien. Conozco esta ciudad muy bien. And then lastly, I know the director of the school. Is this acquaintance or is it data? That's right, this is acquaintance too. It sounds like this. Conozco al director de la escuela. Conozco al director de la escuela. Now, if you were asking, do you know his name? You might say, ¿Sabe usted su nombre? Because that's data. Good job. So saber and conocer, 2 ways to know. Have fun with your Spanish, and I'll see you in class. Nos vemos en la clase.